There's no doubt about it. The source of the darkness is in Helheim.
Hellblade is a game that I have not seen before. It is a narrative experience that blends puzzles and combat together to portray the story that Senua is going through. It's dark, gritty and atmospheric, drawing you into the story and immersing yourself into a beautiful landscape that the game offers. Even at the start of the game, they recommend the use of headphones, due to the use of sound cues and narrations. Now, if you haven't played this game before, then please do. It is honestly a short but sweet game that deserves your attention. However, if you don't mind getting spoiled by my brief summary of the game, then stick around. So, where should we begin? The game starts with our main character, Senua, a Celtic warrior arriving at the home of the Northmen. She is here to rescue the soul of her dead lover, Dillion, from the Norse goddess Hela. We are quickly introduced to Senua's mental state with the introduction of a said curse that makes Senua hear voices known as Furies. There is a main narrator who is aware of the player's presence and breaks the fourth wall, describing Senua's past and current life.
I think the darkness changed them, just like it changed her.
Our journey to Helheim is a treacherous one. Senua is guided by Druth, a now deceased slave of the Norsemen.
It's just a memory.
Druth? Is that you?
He tells stories of his slavery which helps Senua traverse the Norse landscape. We arrive at the Gate of Hell, but to enter, we need to defeat the fire giant Surtur and the god of illusions, Valravan.
To open the gate, you must first face the gods that guard it.
We face many challenges, such as rune puzzles and combat segments. Finally reaching the main enemies, Surtur was simple due to him being slow and having memorable attack patterns. Valravan was fine, but he had speed and agility, sometimes being inconsistent in attacking. Once they were defeated, we can now face Hela at the Bridge of Helheim. With a single blow, Hela defeats us and we're sent into a depressive spiral, but we are saved through the light of Dillion.
The light. Go towards the light. It's him. There he is. It can't be him. It's just a trick. It's in your mind. It's in your mind. It's real.
Dillion leads us to a great tree, which has a sword stuck in it. The sword Gram is a weapon powerful enough to kill Hela. To gain the ability to use the sword, you must do 4 trials.
We'll take you to new lands, where you will face the trial.
One trial, the tower, is what it sounds like. We need to scale a tower with various puzzles. The labyrinth is basically a labyrinth.
And all of them have ghostly flames burning over them.
The swamp has many puzzles and a maze section where an enemy will be chasing you whilst you are trying to find the runes for a gate. And that was the first time I died because... The final trial is the darkness. This trial encases you in shadow and despair, having limited vision. We have to be wary though because there are many monsters that roam. Once these trials are complete, we are now worthy to pull Garm. Now, with the God Killer sword, we proceed to the Gate of Helheim, pushing through the obstacles in our path. Puzzles and fights galore. Eventually, we lose the head of Dillion. His head is at the bottom of a cavern, for which we reach but are stopped by the Hellhound, stated as Fenrir when getting the achievement Tame the Beast. Now, we have to reconstruct the bridge to Helheim. If you get all 44 lore stones, you'll get a scene with Druth before we enter Hell. He expresses his sadness for what he did in his past life, but is thankful that Senua has listened.
It isn't the gods that cause us so much suffering, but those closest to us.
After that, we enter an area with a mirror, for which we trap our darkness inside. Now without the Furies, we face Hela, sword drawn and ready to slay.
You tortured her. You killed her. You haven't done.
Hela sends hordes of enemies at us. However, we can't stop them and get overwhelmed. Luckily, we are alive and ready to face Hela despite all odds. We demand Dillion's soul for our own, but to no avail.
That's what you want, isn't it? My soul. Take it.
We are killed, but are shown a memory of Dillion, expressing the importance of death.
And emerge from that darkness.
Senua is now gone. Hela takes the head of Dillion and drops it into an abyss. Surprisingly, Hela is now Senua. Senua has now accepted her darkness and Dillion's death, resulting in her defeating Hela. Senua's rot disappears and we, the player, are invited to join her on many journeys yet to come.
Follow us. We have another story to tell.
My friend, go with her. This now will be your story to witness. Goodbye.
During this story, we are told of Senua's life through a non-linear fashion. Senua was raised by her father and mother. Her mother had the same condition that Senua had, but viewed it as a gift. Senua's father was a religious man and saw his wife as cursed. Therefore, he burned her alive. Senua witnessed this, but blocked it out of her memory due to the trauma. Her psychosis also increased due to this. Senua was abused by her father, emotionally and physically, isolating her from the world until she met Dillion. Dillion saw Senua as a misunderstood person, and they fell in love. With the help of Dillion, Senua gains the courage to escape the torment of her father.
I am leaving!
Later, a plague seemingly hits Dillion's village, and Senua blames it on herself, resulting in her exiling. I believe that Valravn is some sort of embodiment of Senua's isolation when she was in exile, not knowing what was real as if it was an illusion. Unfortunately, she returned a year later and found that Dillion and his village was slaughtered by the Northmen and burned to ash. This could also tie into the fire giant Surta, being the manifestation of death. Senua defeating Surta and Valravn is her dealing with the guilt of her past, facing them head on. Dillion was sacrificed to the Norse gods for a ritual. This resulted in Senua going on a journey to get her lover's soul back from the gods, especially Hela. Now, straying away from the story, the gameplay in my personal opinion, it was good. However, the shining factor of the game is the use of puzzles. In the game, there are multiple puzzles that involve a rune-locked door. This door can only be opened when we focus on a symbol that we can find or construct in the environment, such as manipulating certain lighting and viewpoints. The combat isn't the main focus of the game, despite the developers of the game having previous titles involving combat as a main factor. The combat scenarios can be seen from a mile away due to the big areas we enter. The enemies are varied, but don't produce a challenge other than being outnumbered. I could easily dispatch 4 enemies through the use of evading because their attack patterns were so simple. The introduction of the focus feature allows Senua to move faster than her enemies and make impervious enemies vulnerable, such as when you fight Fenrir or Garm. When retrieving the sword Gram, it allows us to do charge attacks, dealing massive damage to heavy enemies. Another feature of the game was the Dark Rot. This one feature was very unique. It was some sort of save system. The game will save automatically, but early on in the game we find that Hela places a Dark Rot onto us. This rot will continue up our body every time we die. When it reaches your head, it will kill you, officially, and you will lose your save. Despite this, from many trying, the rot doesn't actually result in a permadeath. Evidently, the rot will reach Senua's head at the end of the game. This was probably done to create anxiety with the player and add some extra tension to the gameplay. It could also be representation of Senua's psychosis, as if it was slowly corrupting her until she accepts her condition. At the end of the game, the rot does go away, seemingly when she does accept that she has this darkness inside of her, or this gift. As I usually do, I'm going to be talking about the development. The game was independently made by NinjaTheory, an English game studio that has developed games such as DMC, Devil May Cry, and Heavenly Sword to name a few. Their previous games focused a lot on combat and gameplay. In Hellblade's case, NinjaTheory wanted to make a short game that involves uncompromising combat and an abundance of story and art. This game was independently developed, produced and published by NinjaTheory, with the main goal of making it a AAA game with the indie spirit. The game takes inspiration from Celtic and Norse mythology, identifying key factors in the historic timeline involving the Celtic people, such as the Northmen invading the lands of the Celts being shown in the game. The most interesting feature in this game is the inclusion of mental health. Senua has a form of psychosis, having voices in her head and occasionally delusions. The game director, Tamine Antonides, stated that it is easy to see the pain and suffering caused by physical diseases or physical trauma. It is not so easy to see the mental suffering or trauma or severe mental illness. With the inclusion of this, it is also influenced with the use of puzzles. Due to Senua having this condition, she could probably see things others couldn't, being the runic puzzles. To portray the psychosis properly, the team consulted neuroscientists and non-profit organisations to capture what psychosis does to one's mind. One of the organisations, Wellcome Trust, provided NinjaTheory with the funding and the chance to contact people with psychosis.
It's a very bold step to work on a project like this, to really look at breaking down some of the stigma and discrimination around mental health by learning from people that actually have the experience of hearing and seeing things that others don't, and being involved in the process of how that may be translated into the game.
Another big aspect that they found is that the illness mainly comes from some sort of trauma, such as isolation or mistreatment. This was translated into Senua's father's abuse, causing her to have this darkness. To showcase the psychosis, Senua, the character herself, needed to be done well. Senua's actor is actually a German freelance photographer and video editor, Melina Jürgens. Fun fact, she edited the Hellblade feature video that can be viewed on the main menu. She hasn't done any other acting work prior to Hellblade. Originally, she was a stand-in for Senua, but she did so well that they made her the final actress. All the cutscenes were recorded in real time. The acting and voice acting was done in the moment of motion capture. Due to the budget being low, they only used one camera, resulting in the cutscenes being one big take long, as if the player is an observer. The limited budget resulted in Melina performing in a small space, with the game director filming her in one big take, having one person for audio and motion capture. To create the voices of the Furies, they got many actors to do binaural recording to simulate close and long distance sounds. Music had to represent the unknown territory that Senua was going into, the home of the North. That's why NinjaTheory brought in Andy LaPlaga to do the music. Andy's a Norwegian agro-tech and electro-pop musician.
Obviously a great opportunity as an artist.
And I encouraged Andy to use his knowledge of the Norwegian language in the Viking songs.
Sounds. When I approached Senua's side, we wanted to do a little bit more folky and more familiar when you think of her character.
Hellblade was released for PS4 and PC on August 8, 2017. After the console exclusivity, a version for Xbox and Xbox One X was released on April the 11th, 2018. It was received well, having favourable reviews, being applauded for its depiction of psychosis and the quality of the finished product despite its low budget. The game has won numerous awards, such as an award for Best Performance. Melina Jürgens won 2 awards, one at 2017 Game Awards and the 2018 Video Game BAFTAs for Best Performance. For someone who has never acted before, it is a massive achievement for her, which she definitely deserves. This shows that when you put in the hard work despite the odds, you'll be rewarded. A sequel has been confirmed and showcased at the 2019 Game Awards, being made for the new Xbox generation. Honestly, even just me researching more about this game just increases my love for it. NinjaTheory really put a lot of passion into this despite having the low budget, and they still crafted this stunning piece of art. We are very sympathetic towards Senua, and this is due to the fact that despite her being this warrior, this strong woman, she still has weaknesses, she still has vulnerabilities that everyone has. Could compare her to someone like Kratos, but where Kratos is different is that he is a god. He has these superhuman abilities that allows him to do these things, but Senua is just going off of her own strength. And this could be a message that despite being powerless, you can still make something. You can still get that goal, achieve that milestone with just enough determination and enough teamwork to get you there.
This is your mission. This is your quest. There is nothing else left.